VOWR800.
Hello and welcome to Going Strong, the program that celebrates the vibrant culture of this place we love and call home. My name is Deborah Collins, and each week I have the pleasure of chatting with people who keep that culture going strong. A big part of the province's culture is music. From young to old, we love it, sing it, play it, and make sure we never let it go. As we approach the Christmas season, the music of the season will be everywhere, in stores, on street corners, wafting over city sidewalks, and of course, filling our churches. My two guests today are very familiar with the joy that Christmas music brings during this season, who have devoted much of their lives to bringing that music to St. John's and Newfoundland audiences, and who, in the coming days, will join forces to bring vocals and instruments together in a wonderful musical collaboration. A big hello to Dr. David Chafe, the Director of Music at Wesley United Church, right next door to us here at VOWR, and to Mark Barter, the Bandmaster at the Salvation Army Temple on Torbay Road in St. John's. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us, and congratulations to you on your new VOWR program.
Well, thank you, and it's people like you that keep us going strong. Well, I'm glad you were able to stop by, and I'm thinking that these are very busy days for church music directors as we enter the Christmas season. I'm thinking that, Mark, you can't even conceive of the Christmas season without all the music that goes along with it, eh?
No, for sure. It's a busy time of year, but exciting too.
Yeah. How about you, David?
Same. Mark and I kind of exist in parallel universes. His church is much more centered around band and choral pieces, and our church, as you know, being a member of our church, is more based on kind of individual presentation of song and music. And it's just a real treat that our two churches and our friendship can come together this Christmas season.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about the collaboration shortly. But first I want to ask you, well, music being such a huge part of your lives, where does Christmas music fit in the picture? Is it different or is it special? Does it resonate in a different way than music during the rest of the year?
It brings people out more, for sure, and I think that's really important, and not just for the sake of having, more people occupying the seats in a church, but it's a reminder that contrary to a lot of what we've heard over the last several years with churches closing and that sort of thing, that it is reassuring to know that, in my view anyway, congregations actually haven't disappeared. I think they're still out there. They've just, I think, shifted. They're certainly online, and, there's a lot of evidence of that with both of our churches. But to see them come out in person, I think not just speaks to the Christmas season in and of itself, but I think just a seeking of worship music. And there's just something about that season that brings children and old people and everybody in between out together. And I think it's more than just feeling compelled to go out and sing Christmas music. I think there's something deeply spiritual in that.
And along those lines, of course, gospel music is embedded in the musical culture of Newfoundland and Labrador. You've been steeped in it, or maybe I should say steepled in it. Why is gospel music so appealing to so many, do you think, Mark?
For me, I didn't grow up in the Salvation Army or really going to church much at all. There was a United Church at home in Old Perlican, and that's actually where I first met Reverend Bill Mercer back in his younger days. So there was some influence there, I'm sure. Then later, of course, as I came to university, I met a young Salvation Army girl who later became my wife, and that was my introduction to the church there, of course. And, I find that church music in particular does bring people together, singing about common faith and common beliefs, and there's just something special about expressing your faith in that way that I believe is different from other types of music.
And I think your eclectic background in church as well. Like you've got, obviously a United Church background, an Anglican background, and now a Salvation Army background. And I've got Anglican and now a United background as well. And I think that also speaks to sharing of music and sharing of our church spaces and sharing of our church people as well. I think we're at a place now in church music and in church generally, certainly in the Christian church anyway, where we are looking either by accident or by design, past denominations and just sharing together.
And I think perhaps that gospel music also saw a bit of a surge during the pandemic. You know, I can still picture Andrea Bocelli, you know, as he walked outside a cathedral in Milan in 2020, just after the world shut down, literally. And that song that he sang went viral during a time, I think, when people were anxious and uncertain and looking for assurance. And what did he sing? He sang Amazing Grace. And I don't think that was a coincidence. What impact did the pandemic, do you think, have on the desire to hear gospel music?
Again, I think, you know, at the risk of sounding repetitive, I think there was, the pandemic shut obviously everything down, not to kind of belabor everything that we all know about the pandemic, but we were all to ourselves, and that allowed a moment. It was a dark time, especially in the early days, but it was also introspective. And I think, you know, when we couldn't be with our friends, couldn't be, you know, going to parties and couldn't be in band and choir rehearsals and so on, and we were just sitting there in our own thoughts, I think that was, in many respects, certainly in a spiritual sense, healthy as well. You know, our lives became smaller and a little more intimate, and we were able to center without all the distractions of the world on the things that are most important. And I, you know, certainly speaking for myself anyway, and I hope I'm speaking for, you know, at least a handful of other people, it renewed my faith, that time to myself, you know, strengthened my, even though I was already into the music of the faith, it just strengthened my belief in the power of that music, especially at that kind of a time.
And there are some really interesting things, positive things that came out of that period of time. And of course, like all other churches, ours was closed completely for a certain period during the pandemic. And a lot of people were, especially musicians, were finding ways to connect and just continue to be active in doing what they enjoy to do, and also bring comfort to others. And initially, we had people recording their separate parts at home and someone else piecing them together and then sending that out on a feed from whether it was Facebook or YouTube, and then eventually grew into live streaming, and that took off and has become a thing of its own in a very positive way. So we're able, like other churches who have done that, to reach a broader congregation than we would from those who simply come to our building.
And I think it's been a really interesting parallel to the history of this station, VOWR. You know, VOWR started in 1924 on the same premise that we reached out to congregations in the middle of the pandemic. You know, the founder of this station in 1924 said, well, let's create, you know, radio was brand new, so let's bring church into people's living rooms. And what were we doing nearly a century later? Doing exactly that same thing and realizing new expressions, new ways to express our faith.
That's right, exactly. And of course, for many, Christmas music and Christmas speaks to the beginning of the Christian faith journey. And we're going to hear some Christmas music now. I asked each of you to suggest one of your favorite selections. And Mark, you requested Go Tell It on the Mountain. Why that piece? Tell us who plays it and why that piece.
Well, that's a recording of the St. John's Temple Band from a number of years ago now. It was actually before I was bandmaster. I was playing in the band at the time, and there's an opportunity that it's kind of discontinued now, unfortunately. But back in those days, the Canadian territory and for the Salvation Army used to put together a Christmas CD, and there'd be tracks from different places across the country from different groups in Ontario, and we would send one in every couple of years or so. So this is where it comes from, and it's a lively piece. It's a fun piece to play. Go Tell It on the Mountain is, of course, the great message of Christmas. Tell the story of Christ's birth, and it's a fun swing arrangement that it's fun to play, and I think people will really enjoy listening to it.
Well, let's have a listen. And that was Go Tell It on the Mountain, a favorite Christmas song of Mark Barter, the bandmaster at the Salvation Army Temple in St. John's. One of my guests today on Going Strong. He's here along with David Chafe, the director of music at Wesley United Church. They are friends and musical collaborators. And now we're going to hear a tale of two churches. Do tell. What are we going to hear on December 3rd, David?
Oh, it's a fantastic collaboration. And I would be remiss before I go on about the concert not to mention the legacy of Gord Cousins and Mildred Cousins, both of whom have very strong connections to both of our churches. I'm not sure, the older I get, I believe in coincidence anymore, but that was a collaboration between... thanks to the two of them, between Wesley United Church and the Salvation Army St. John's Temple. Gord passed away a few years ago, but Mark and I have been friends for about a quarter of a century. And Mark, speaking of the pandemic, came to me a couple of years ago, or just over a year ago, over a coffee and said, look, why don't we let's just revive this relationship, and not just our friendship relationship, because we'd fallen out of touch for a couple of years, but musically, what can we do? And so it's thanks to him that our two churches have come together again. And last year we tried it as kind of an experiment. And you know how it is, Deborah, as a performer yourself, you never know if anybody's going to show up and how people are going to respond. And, Mark and I were just blown away. Between us and our 30-plus musicians, we had, I think, about 400 people at Wesley. And the concert was live streamed thanks to our operator here, Mark Chafe. And, it's been viewed something like 17,000 times. So we said, well, we have to do this again. So we're back for the second annual Old-Fashioned Christmas. And it is, as you describe, a collaboration between all musicians and music leaders and clergy of our two churches, this time taking place at the Salvation Army St. John's Temple.
And December 3rd?
December 3rd at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.,
That's right.
Yeah. How important are these kinds of ecumenical joint ventures, do you think, in these days, Mark?
Well, I think it's always great when you can get people of different faiths, different denominations to come together and show that there's a united message that we're all trying to convey to the world. And, there are various ways that we do this. A concert is one. And as Dave mentioned, we came up with the idea. It wasn't really unique to me, actually. It was more of carrying on a tradition, so to speak, because... the St. John's Temple Band has been doing a Christmas concert for, I forget the count now. It must be close to 30 years, and that was kind of the way we would do it, and invite a guest group, sometimes some guest soloists. And so I was just kind of thinking, well, we haven't done one in a while, and it'd be great to get another partnership with a church. And as David already mentioned, Gord was forefront in our minds as well. So I thought, well, let's see if this can work with Wesley. That'd be great to revive that friendship and that relationship.
Yeah. And of course, you mentioned 30 years of concerts, but I mean, a lot of people associate the Salvation Army with Christmas, here in St. John's. I'm thinking in particular the bands playing on street corners downtown and around the city. You're part of a long continuum, really, now, as bandmaster of the Salvation Army bands ringing out the music of the season. How does it feel to be part of that lovely Christmas continuum?
Oh, it's pretty exciting. And, when you put it that way, I'd have to say it's certainly a privilege as well to be a part of that. And there are many ways we look to get involved, to get outside of our own building and to just share the music that we've prepared and hopefully bring joy to others. Of course, you've mentioned the ideas of playing on Christmas kettles as people are waiting inside stores. We have caroling with songsters or some groups of singers, and we visit seniors' homes and hospitals. There's been a long history of participation in parades, whether it be the downtown parade or others. Already mentioned concerts, and something a little more recent, sometimes we participate in just Christmas tree lightings, whether it be for our church or communities as well. So all sorts of busyness, but it's good, and people, musicians in our church, and really enjoy taking part in those activities.
And David, you have a memory of the Salvation Army Band.
I'm chomping at the bit here to tell you about my earliest childhood memory, which, believe it or not, it sounds idyllic or almost, too much like a Christmas card to be real, but it actually happened.
Was it the Mr. Bean show?
No. That's another interview for another time. No. No, I remember I grew up in Mount Pearl, and I remember being hoisted up on somebody's shoulder, one of my parents, I guess, or maybe my grandmother who lived next door, because I was drawn to the living room window by a brass band. And, our window was kind of full of condensation and frost and that sort of thing. And I remember looking out, and on the street corner of First Street and Edinburgh Drive in Mount Pearl, there was a brass quintet or quartet just playing under a street light. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, right? Yeah. But it actually happened. And I'm sure, going forward in my musical journey and in my spiritual journey that, unwittingly at the time, probably at such an early age, it really shaped who I became. Yeah, but I think it was absolutely formative for sure.
Yeah. Well, David, you've also suggested a piece of Christmas music. Tell us about it and why it resonates with you.
The hymn In the Bleak Midwinter has always been a favorite of mine. I have so many favorites, as we all do. But that one just stands out, especially now. I think it's become more favorite of mine, I think, over the last few years, when we, can't escape talks of politics and the economy and, what people can afford and that sort of thing. And, going back to our earlier discussion on the pandemic and how introspective it made us all become and, self-aware, ultimately, no matter what we have in material things, we always have our faith and we always have our heart to give. And that kind of goes to, I'm going to get emotional now, but that goes to this concert. We're not charging admission for this concert. It's, we want people, no matter their backgrounds, no matter their spiritual walk, no matter their economic state, to come and feel free to attend. We accept only a free will offering, and those offerings go evenly to our two churches and our outreach ministry. So in the bleak midwinter, especially the last verse, what can I give him? Give him my heart. That says it all to me for this time of year.
Yeah, and certainly Christmas music and faith will brighten even the bleakest of midwinters. Well, let's have a listen.
Bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan. Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow. In the bleak midwinter, long time ago. Heaven cannot hold him, nor earth sustain. Heaven and earth shall flee away when he comes to reign. In the bleak midwinter, a stable place sufficed. The Lord God Almighty, Jesus Christ. what can I give him, poor as I am? If I were a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. If I were a wise man, I would do my part. Yet what can I give him? Give him my heart. Yet what can I give him? Give him my heart.
And that was In the Bleak Midwinter by David Chafe and Andrew Dale from their CD Midnight Clear. David is the director of music at Wesley United Church right here on Patrick Street in downtown St. John's. And he and Mark Barter, the bandmaster at the Salvation Army Temple in St. John's, are my guests today on Going Strong. We're talking Christmas music, gospel music, and a lovely tradition of collaboration between these two churches, with a joint Christmas concert coming up on Sunday, December 3rd. I have a feeling this is a tradition that's going to go on and on.
I hope so. I sure hope so. Yeah.
You know, the musical preparations for the Christmas season are well underway now. You folks are both immersed in it. It's the busiest time of year for a musical director, and it's probably all too easy to get swept up in all your responsibilities. I'm going to ask you both, how do you keep perspective on the value, the importance of the music that you're sharing with those who'll hear it?
Well, I'm in a situation at our church where we have a relatively large congregation, and we have, proportionally quite a few people who are very good musicians and who are good leaders as well. So it doesn't always fall on my shoulders alone, and that's helpful and comforting at times. Just this past week I was out of town for work, and I had no trouble finding someone to take over practice for me, so that's comforting as well. But of course, with the busyness, whether it's at Christmas time or other times of year, there are times when I feel, the weight of leadership, I suppose, is a way of putting it. I always come back to, I've been very privileged and fortunate in my life to receive many musical experiences, lots of training and education, and I feel it's my act of service, an act of spiritual service to use that for worship.
And the music is so beautiful too, and the messages are so beautiful.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Mark said as well. It's interesting that this interview is taking place this week, because Mark and I both are experiencing certain pressures this week, both with our respective occupations and personal lives and so on. But I think what settles me is when I take time to just listen to the music. For example, for this concert on December the 3rd, as we've already said, all of our musicians are coming together. And I'm quite happy to take a seat in the back row, literally and figuratively, in the chorus of our concert, and be directed by somebody else and just listen to the music and not have to worry. Ultimately, you give all this up, and you trust your heart, you trust in God, you trust your musicians. Everybody's just there to have a good time. And those moments in rehearsal, especially the moments in performance, ironically, it's the run-up that's stressful. But when the lights are on and the camera's on and the microphones are in our hand, funny enough, that's when I feel most relaxed, because then it's just everything is out the door and everybody's there to support us, and we're there to support each other.
And you see the looks on people's faces as they're listening.
It's unbelievable.
It really, truly resonates, not just the music, but the message of the music.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you both then. I'll start with you, Mark. What keeps you going strong?
Well, I think, I referenced a little bit earlier the idea of, this is an act of service and a duty to an extent that I'm privileged to have. But more than that, it is exciting. And, there have been times when I might have a difficult work week or other things happening in life, but then I know that Wednesday nights when 8:30 comes, I'm leading band practice, and when we leave at 10 o'clock, whatever else was going on in my week, I feel at peace and feel a sense of joy. So that's an important thing for me personally, and being able to see that in the people in the group as well. It brings everybody together, and it helps us refocus our priorities, I believe.
Yeah. David?
It's moments like this, Deborah, just the opportunity to sit down and reflect and discuss among friends. And, just yesterday I was here just down the hall at Wesley United rehearsing with our lead singer for this coming Sunday. And, I went into that rehearsal feeling pretty pressured, but left feeling very much at ease and at peace, because the joy on this Sunday's worship leader is infectious, and she left feeling just extremely happy for the opportunity to sing and to worship in song, and that I am in a position to be able to provide that to her is really quite powerful. So it's it can be stressful at times, but it's the response of other people, whether it's musicians or audiences, that's what keeps me going strong.
Yeah, and in a positive way, of course, too. There's just tremendous excitement at the opportunities. There's so much music to play and to share, and it's just really exciting to look from one year to the next at, hey, we can do this piece next year. Well, what about this one? And
exactly.
So lots
You're
of different...
already thinking about 2024, I can tell.
And it's infectious, and it's rejuvenating, isn't it? It's replenishing. The music itself is. Yeah. Well, quick reminder before we sign off. So tell us again, David, about the concert. When and where and how soon should we get there?
Absolutely. It's called An Old-Fashioned Christmas. That's just exactly what it is. It's a Salvation Army band and a combination of the Salvation Army St. John's Temple songsters and the Wesley United Church hymn team, and myself at the piano, and our singers at Wesley will be leading the audience in sing-along, so every single person in attendance will be participating musically. It's taking place Sunday, December the 3rd at the Salvation Army St. John's Temple on Torbay Road at 7 p.m. sharp. I will encourage people to get there comfortably early to get a parking space and a good seat, although every seat in the temple church has a phenomenal sight line. Again, it's free will offering, and all proceeds are being split evenly between our two outreach ministries.
Okay. Good cause. Good night and a good cause.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let the season begin is what I say. We look forward to all the music under your leadership this Christmas season. Bandmaster Mark Barter of the Salvation Army Temple in St. John's, and Dr. David Chafe, Director of Music at Wesley United Church. Thank you for your music and for being here today.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And that is Going Strong for this week. My name is Deborah Collins, inviting you to join us again next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. right here on VOWR.